Hey everybody, spoilers for Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Script Farm. I'm joined today by Brad and Marcus to talk about the Book of Boba Fett, episodes 5 and 6. Before we get into that, if you haven't already, do check out our website, thescriptdepartment.net. Check out all the latest projects that our global network of screenwriters are up to. Hit us up on social media. Links are in the description. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our podcast. Just search for The Script Department wherever you get your podcasts and hit subscribe on the YouTube channel as well. So I've been really eager to talk about these last two episodes, which is essentially Mandalorian Season 3.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on these episodes, Marcus, Brad?
Wow.
After you.
I have so many thoughts, and thank you for having me as a guest on. I feel like I've crashed the party a little bit here, but thank you for having me along for this Book of Boba Fett support group that I think is about to occur. It's just bizarre. It's just bizarre. Like I have to divide myself between screenwriter and Star Wars fan, because as a Star Wars fan, it's great to see the Mandalorian. It's great to see Luke. It's great to see Ahsoka. It's great to see. I'm just jumping in on all of this. We're going in the deep end straight off the thing. It's great to see all of them. But as a screenwriter, I'm entirely baffled by the decisions that have been made, because they've thrown all ideas of structure, all ideas of convention, anything that would be an ordinary thing to do for writing a series like this, including making the title character part of it. They've just got rid of. They've just gone, no, we don't need to worry about that. We're just going to crack on and tell this other story. And for what reason, I can't really tell, because you could just so easily have, like you say, pushed all of this to the Mandalorian Series 3 or the Ahsoka series, which is in the works, which I think would be a far more appropriate place for most of this to occur, certainly in episode 6. And just Mando's come back, and you do exactly what you did with Boba Fett, with the Book of Boba Fett, and you jump back in time a little bit. You go explore all of these things at the beginning of that series, and we actually get on with the story. It's fun. It's phenomenal. I don't feel as though, and do stop me because I will rant, I don't feel as though the writers of this, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, I don't feel like they really care about Boba Fett's story. I don't feel as if they and I think that is indicative of the whole show. And the problem I have with this whole series is that they're more interested in exploring what happened to him after he climbed out of the Zarlak pit. They're more interested in the Mandalorian for sure, and they're more interested in the legacy characters. And this brilliant kind of gangster series on Tatooine that we were promised is just kind of an afterthought, and I just don't feel like they're interested in it. That's my 2 pence. But as a Star Wars fan, great to see all these people back.
Yeah, I mean, it's super exciting to see any of them.
Yeah.
all in the same 2 episodes. Like, I was just screaming at the screen, like, oh, come on, look, I can't believe this is happening right now. I was super excited about what was happening, but I think I'm in a similar place as far as the structure of things is concerned, because they have thrown that rulebook out the window. But I think, as we've discussed previously, like, this is a really weird place to be in, because obviously Disney own everything now, and they're making a spin-off of a spin-off influenced by a lot of other spin-offs and characters from animated series, like
referring to prequels and
exactly. So we're in a really, really weird space as far as like structure and narrative go. So I'm kind of with them throwing the rulebook out, because I think what they're doing with the Book of Boba Fett is they're setting up all the other shows. So they're setting up, which I'm now going to call the Obi-Wan show. That is just what I'm going to call it from now on, because it sounds good. So they're setting up the Obi-Wan show. They're setting up the Ahsoka show. I know they've shelved Rangers of the Republic, but that doesn't have to be permanent. Like, they're in this and they're great. And, you know, there was a thing that happened where they decided to shelve it, but they didn't say it was never going to happen. So I think they're setting up a lot here. There's also a lot of chatter online about the Grogu and Luke show, which they might do that. They can do that now. They can do that.
What you mean,
Like,
Grogu and the
you can
character, the PS2 cutscene formerly known as Luke Skywalker? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I mean, I think from Mandalorian season 2, yes. I think from this one, I think it was a dramatic improvement on the deep fake of Skywalker. Some of it, I was like, no, that's stock footage from the 70s. That's oh no, it is. They've made him. I think when he talks, it's a bit clunky, but it's getting really good. There was all this talk of Sebastian Stan coming forward to play Luke because they look so similar, but I don't think they need to do that. Like, there's so much to talk about. They could bring the big three back into it just because they can. They could just have, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but they're building the school where Ben Solo gets trained. Like, they can bring everyone back into this, and it looks like they can do that.
For what purpose,
the technology.
Though? Like, for what purpose other than for? And it might be, maybe it is enough. Maybe it's enough just to get Star Wars fans excited. Maybe that's all the reason you need to bring these things back in. And all of our pontificating about structure and narrative, whatever, is just entirely pointless, because if it works, it works. But what is the purpose of, what does it actually gain? What does this story gain by the inclusion of Luke Skywalker and that stuff? What at the end of the Mandalorian, that wonderful cameo is great, but what does it gain now?
So I mean, when I was watching the episode 5, so just to very, very, very quickly recap, I mean, there is no story really here. It's Mando. Last we saw, Boba Fett has said we need more help and we've got money, so let's hire Mandalorian. Cue the music. Episode 5 starts with Mando collecting a bounty. He's using the Darksaber. He's not very good with the Darksaber. He gets wounded. He goes and tracks down the last 2 members of the Order. We've got the armorer, the woman who makes all the armor and kind of gives them all the kind of sage wisdom and his mission briefings and stuff like that sometimes. And there's also that other kind of brute kind of Mando character that we've got. It's just the 3 of them basically, and they're talking about the Darksaber. Turns out the big brutish guy has some claim over ownership of the Darksaber. Very coincidental that. And they challenge each other in a duel. Some reason the question of taking off your mask comes up.
That's weird.
Totally around.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere really, and it was like, have you ever taken off your mask? And he's like, yes. Okay, well, you're out of here then.
Yeah,
but it's like she knew somehow she knew. It's like where her parents like, did somebody steal the biscuits? And it's that kind of thing.
Someone take off their mask.
Evidently knew.
And now, despite the fact there's only 3 of them left, she's kicking him out. Like one would think you could make a I'll forgive it, I'll let it slide, but you're gonna have to pay for it later. No, it's get out. And he's got a mission ahead where he can redeem himself, but he's got it seems like it's going to be a tough one ahead. In the meantime, he wants to go look for Grogu, but he needs a new ship. He goes back to Tatooine, builds himself a cool starfighter.
It is a cool starfighter.
And it turns out Fennec Shand is just down the road, and she's like, "Oh, it's so great that you're here because I don't have to look very far for you." And we had a discussion in the last episode. I raised a point in the last discussion, Brad, where I said, "Are they going to go off world, and should they go off world? Does it affect the DNA of this show set on Tatooine?" And it never occurred to me that they would write Mando in. He's just over there,
He could be at any point in the entire galaxy, and he's just in the next town over.
This functioning bounty hunter who travels from planet to planet, and he's just there. And it's like, are you free? Yeah, I will be. I just need to go and find Grogu. And one would think that would be an entire journey in its own right, an entire season in its own right, looking for this guy that the mysterious Jedi has taken away to a hidden location. No, he knows exactly where to go, and he finds him straight away. And that's episode 6, where it's basically, I'm going to sit here and wait for Luke to be done with Grogu.
So
And
doesn't he have
it's
one of those
just-
trackers though? He has a tracker thing, right? Which I don't know how that works.
Oh, really? But
That he
Yeah.
gets it out at the start of Ep 5 when he goes into that meat locker. And you're like, oh, the guy's around here somewhere. And he's like, bleep, 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 bleep. And he shows him the thing, say, no, he's in the room. So they have, I don't know how that thing
Okay,
works. They have
That's a
something that
bounty,
can
though,
track.
isn't it? That's the in the Mandalorian proper. They show people that are tagged and things like that, and that's like a bounty tracker. I thought.
So they have the disc, don't they, with the bounty on it. But that, I'm sure he has that out when he's looking for Grogu, or maybe I've imagined it. Maybe it's just a flashing light on his.
Well, it makes sense.
dashboard or something.
It makes sense because he did use that to find Grogu in episode 1 of Mandalorian. Remember, he was sent to go and find, and he's like following the tracker, and he comes over to the crib. So he has used in the past, but one would think he would have removed the tracker from Grogu in some way or disabled it in some way in order to prevent other people from finding Grogu. I don't know. One would think.
I thought that was an actual plot point because Grogu was still being hunted by other bounty hunters. So I feel like that was a plot point. Him actually removing the tracker so no one else could come and find him. I felt like that happened.
Whatever, he finds Grogu anyway in the next episode, and there's absolutely no kind of build up to reconciliation or anything. He doesn't even get to see Grogu, which I thought was a mature touch. Ahsoka is there, Luke is there, Luke is training Grogu, and Ahsoka is kind of telling Mando, look, you're just going to make things worse for Grogu if you get in his life now. And at the very end of the episode, Grogu has to make a choice. He can either take the armor that, the small little kind of vest that Mando has made for him, or he can take a lightsaber, Yoda's lightsaber. And we cut to credits as Grogu's about to make his decision. We do see Boba Fett, but only in a scene less significant than the very first scene of Boba Fett in Empire Strikes Back. You know that lineup where Vader is walking along and briefing them about the Millennium Falcon, and you see Boba Fett standing there with Bosk and all these other bounty hunters? That was a more significant moment than the scene of Fennec Shand briefing everybody on the mission ahead. and
it turns
Mando
out
standing in the corner.
Mando's been on this whole mission to an entirely other planet on an undisclosed distance. But don't worry, he's back and he's just missed the start of the meeting.
Yeah.
It's the first 5 minutes. Can we do a recap at the end, guys? We need to move on.
All right, Mando, can we take that offline? Is that all right?
Sorry, I know you've probably answered this question already, Fennec, but it was so, and he was just. I thought, why isn't he the one, Boba Fett giving this briefing? Why is Fennec? I know she's the new kind of warrior of these two. She's the one that's still able to kind of, I don't know, I feel like Boba Fett's probably not able to keep up with the rest of them. Fennec is.
There's something weird about it anyway. Like, it's a briefing for new guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
There aren't any new guys there at that point.
Yeah.
Like, you've got the mod guys and you've got Chrysanthemum. They already know what's happening. Like, who are they briefing in that briefing? Like, Mando walks in late.
Yeah, it's only for Mando's benefit, but they started without him. How rude.
And the irony is that it was clearly we need a scene of Boba Fett here, because we can't have 2 full episodes of the Book of Boba Fett without Boba Fett. And yet all it did was actually highlight the sheer ineffectiveness of how they're using this character. Now, we've been quite supportive, Brad, of this show. We've had our criticisms, and I've had my kind of questions about, like, what is the point of this show? How is this? What are they really trying to say here? What are they trying to explore, and so on? Because I was still kind of waiting for some answers on that. I do think they've ticked a lot of boxes for sure. I think they've definitely given me the fan service and all that. But Marcus, you asked, what's the point of Luke? What's the point of these kind of guys coming in? The point of it is John was sitting there at that television screaming at just how amazing that deep fake looked.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought that was just amazing.
I rewound that bit 3 times going, that is stock. That first shot is stock, but it's amazing.
I know. And I just thought, okay, there are 1 or 2 moments where you're like, oh yeah, I see it slipping a little bit, but My God, if that's they can literally do, as you said, they can literally do a whole show around Luke training Grogu and building up the academy. It might cost a fortune with the visual effects stuff, but they can do it now because they've proven that they can do that. I think they've convinced us that they can do it. And Mark Hamill is credited, so it's not like you're going behind his back or anything. I mean, he would obviously be playing a role of some sort in that, however that would work. But that's the answer to your question, Marcus. Ahsoka's there because, hey, it's Ahsoka. And Luke is there because now we're all giddy as hell. And it is very much, I've used wrestling references this whole time, it is very much the WWE approach of, we didn't sell a lot of tickets for next month's event, get Stone Cold Steve Austin in as a guest. Or WrestleMania isn't selling as much as we'd like, let's have Hulk Hogan as a guest host. Yeah. Because they think that will sell tickets. And that's what's happened here. I know they haven't made this show week by week. It's not like they're reacting to audience reactions and saying, let's put Luke in next week. I know they're not doing that. But it does feel like they had to rush out these scripts. And like by episode 4, they were like, yeah, this isn't really reading very well, is it? And it does feel like somebody at the top just said, yeah, we need Mando back. Just get him back. And I know it's definitely Pedro Pascal in there under that mask, but the way that they've made this, the kind of haphazard way with which characters are being kind of shoehorned in, it wouldn't surprise me if you told me, oh, Pedro Pascal just lent his voice this time.
Yeah.
Like we just got a body double in and then Pedro Pascal lent us his voice. I'm sure that's not what they've done, but it wouldn't surprise me if that's how it went, because it just feels like this last minute reaction. We need something to give life into this show because it is seriously nothing otherwise.
Yeah.
That's my, like, I know it sounds like I'm being really harsh here, but that's my take after this. I loved every second of those last 2 episodes, but I loved it because I'm waiting for Mando season 3.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, but I knew that.
Yeah, but I think this is the thing, though. I'm kind of getting a little bit sick of Lucasfilm apologizing for the sequel trilogy, and that's what it feels like this is at the moment. Like they're showing Luke Skywalker in his prime because they did him so dirty in The Last Jedi. Arguably, I know people disagree with that or agree with that. Whatever, that's not what they're here for. But they're showing Luke Skywalker prime. They're they're bringing in Ahsoka. They're doing all these references and things like that. And I just wanted to watch a show about Boba Fett, and that's the thing. And I found ultimately for me, I found the deep fake really distracting. I am not on that bus in any way. Yeah, really, really not. Like I found it so distracting, and it took me out of the whole thing. I'd rather you brought in Sebastian Stan, put a little bit of like whatever on him, because it's the eyes. It's just the eyes. They're so dead. And Mark Hamill's having to deliver this really flat performance just because the CGI can't emote. And and yeah, you have, and it's they kind of get away with it because you have a Luke Skywalker at this point that is wise Jedi Master and delivers lines in this kind of very gentle way anyway. But then the moment you have, and he kind of get away with it, I don't buy it, but they kind of do. But then the moment you have him look at Ahsoka and say, "What do you think I should do?" and have that a little bit of emotion, it kills it for me, because you have that character reaching out to a very important character in his own life. Like, Star Wars canon to one side. At some point, they've had a conversation. I knew your father trained me. I can tell you loads of stuff about your father. And Luke going, wow, okay, please tell me everything. She's so important to him. She's so crucial to his understanding of himself and the Force, apart from anything else. And so, of course, he'd ask her that question, what do you think I should do? But because it's delivered in such a flat way, and the image, Mark Hamill's 80s frozen face, just doesn't emote in that way. It just killed it for me entirely. And I think if you want to do that, Sebastian Stan or whoever, a little bit of prosthetic or whatever you want to do just to build it, or deep fake Luke Skywalker, excuse me, deep fake Mark Hamill on top of Sebastian Stan a little bit, or something like that. So you just to add a bit more humanity to it, because for me, it just, at that point there, I'm sat there looking at a PlayStation cutscene, talking to a puppet, talking to a man in a mask, and I was just pleased Ahsoka was there because there was actually a human being in the room. You know, it
is deepfake, or not the that technique, that CGI face replacement technique, is one of those things where it's some people can't click with it and some people can. And for every person that I've heard complain about Robert Downey Jr. in Civil War, young Robert Downey Jr. in Civil War, I've heard a lot of other people say, I've heard the same amount of people say how much they loved it. I think I'm definitely, maybe it is because I'm a hardcore gamer, I am more forgiving of these types of face replacements. I was definitely I was giddy when I saw Mark Hamill the first time in Mando season 2. But I was like, yeah, okay, I would have expected a little bit better. In Blade Runner 2049, there's an old character that you see for a moment. Is it 2049? I get the years mixed up. In the Blade Runner sequel,
Blade Runner 2.
Blade Runner 2. It's an easy number. There's a character who from the original movie that makes a quick little appearance, and it's, a lot of people were thrown by that, but I've also heard other people say this is the best example of this done well, and I'm definitely I can suspend my disbelief, because I think I've done it enough with video games over the years. It's funny that you mentioned PlayStation cutscene. I think I'm able to suspend my disbelief with it. And if you gave me a whole TV show around Luke and Grogu, I don't think I would reject it. I'd say an animation is the way to go on that, by the way, but like a Clone Wars style animation. But I totally get your point. Like, it is one of those things where some people just cannot see past the visual effects.
I think it's definitely getting better. I mean, there's the when I first started seeing these like de-aging scenes, there were like brief split seconds where you're like, oh, it looks real, and then most of the time it looked awful. Mm-hmm. But those brief split seconds are getting longer and longer and longer. So, for example, the line that you mentioned, Marcus, where he says, "What should I do?" totally didn't look right. Totally didn't look realistic. But the opening scenes where he's not really doing much and he's hanging around, it looked like a human being. So there's these periods of time are getting longer and longer and longer. I think just because we're still learning how to do this. So the guy they hired this time round apparently was the guy who did the deep fake of Mandalorian. The finale, and went, no, this is how you do it. And Disney went, we're getting that guy in, and they actually employed that guy from YouTube to do the deep fake. And it's okay, just someone did that at home, kind of thing. Like, we're still getting to, we're still learning how to use this technology.
And don't get me wrong, I applaud it. Absolutely, I applaud it. I think it's and keep going. And I'm not saying don't do it, because you look at the Leia. Princess Leia moment from Rogue One, literally just keeping it within Star Wars. I quite like Grand Moff Tarkin. I think he looked really good. But
yeah, me too.
People don't. But I was on board with that one. I think possibly because he was in more shadow and things like that. Luke Skywalker's in bright open spaces. It's very difficult to hide. They set the VFX artists were set a tremendous challenge. And I do think it sounds like I'm going back on myself, but I'm really not. I do think they rose really well to it, given the technology. I just don't think it's there yet for that much. I'd rather.
Well, the problem is that they're using it. They're being too greedy. Might not be the right word, but you don't use this technology for very long in a scene. They didn't need to show us Luke's face for most of this episode. They could have done this whole thing from Grogu's perspective, the body double there, from maybe the chest down of Luke, the voice, all that stuff, the occasional flicker, the occasional glimpse of his face from the side or something like that. That would have been enough, because at the end of the day, this is Grogu's experience. It's not Luke. Luke isn't going on some journey here. Grogu is the one going on the journey. So just keep it from his perspective. And we would have understood. The visual language would have made sense to us as an audience. And it also would have tied into the storytelling a little bit better. it would have put more emphasis on Grogu as a character here, not as something. He's not a nuclear football that we have to keep out of the hands of the terrorists in a Die Hard movie or something like that, right? He's actually a person. He's a living being that, you know, is developing. And I think by putting so much emphasis on Luke in this episode, they kind of missed the point. It almost seems like the point of that episode was Luke is at a crossroads in terms of his own abilities as a trainer. And we know that self-doubt is going to come out later on, but no, keep it on Grogu. And yeah, so I do feel actually with more disciplined storytelling in this episode, they could have avoided any issues at all about whether it looks realistic or not, because you wouldn't have allowed yourself the amount of time to see Luke. I don't know, that was my kind of feeling. Like, yeah, if we're having that conversation about whether it was believable or not, we're only having it because they spent too much time with Luke.
Yeah.
In the first place.
And that's ultimately the thing for me, is that my entire reaction to this show, certainly these last two episodes, that the episode 5 is, I think, the best episode of The Mandalorian. I loved it. It was great. And it's, I think probably the best episode of this series. But that, as much as I enjoyed it, throws up huge red flags, because it's not about Boba Fett. And I love the character Boba Fett, that lone gunslinger. They did a lot of that stuff. I think you guys mentioned this before, but they've done a lot of that stuff with the Mandalorian. So, you know, they would have had for Boba Fett. And I know a lot of the DNA of the now cancelled Boba Fett film was repurposed into the Mandalorian and things like that. So you can see all that there. But I just wanted to spend time with this interesting character, and I don't really feel that we know Boba Fett all that much better, despite the fact that we've spent, you know, a few hours with him now, because he's been missing so much from these last two episodes. I think it's a real shame, and it's, yeah.
We've been neglecting two other very interesting characters in these episodes. So while Mando is doing his thing with oh no, actually no, it is Mando doing it. Sorry, I thought for a second there it was Boba Fett that was doing this. No, it was actually Mando again. Boba Fett says we're going to need more help, and Mando is the one who steps up, not the new Lord of Tatooine. And Mando goes and tracks down Cobb Vanth, played by Timothy Oliphant, which is basically just Justified on Tatooine now, which I have no problem with. But he's
great.
He's fantastic in it. But let's call a spade a spade. This is Justified, one of my favorite TV shows in Star Wars, and I'm absolutely all happy for him to get his own show as well, please. And he is like, oh, you know, it's not my fight, guys, it's not my fight. And then, or other people are like, it's not our fight. And anyway, I think he's coming around to wanting to help. And then I've had to Google this. Cad Bane, Cad Bane, famous bounty hunter from, I think, Clone Wars. He's had a run-in with Fennec Shand as well before. He brilliantly just appears from the sands, from the dust.
It's amazing, that scene. It's
really
they've just spaghetti western, like the whole thing. Even the bit where Mandu's in the bar with him before, spaghetti western, how they're creeping in on the face slowly on the two shot, slowly creeping in, and then back to it. Oh my! It's just it's
the
just
opening as well with him there with the pikes and everything, and you know he's standing there, he's shooting.
Think it through.
Think it through. Yeah. Oh man, it's iconic. It's so great. It's so great.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely just brilliant Western storytelling. And I was so excited to see him back, because to be honest, I'd forgotten about him as a character. He appears in the first episode of season 2 of Mandalorian. He is the one that had Boba Fett's armor, which I thought, if anybody is going to come and try and recruit Cobb Vanth, it'll be Boba Fett, because it's like, you owe me, because you've been using my name or my armor or, you know, whatever for a long time. You wouldn't be the Marshal if it wasn't for my armor. You owe me. There is a connection between Cobb Vanth and Boba Fett that they could play into, but no, it's Mando that does the work again. I mean,
well, apparently the helmet dent, his famous helmet dent, came from Cad Bane. I might have that wrong. That was a quick
No, that's
Google,
right.
but it's
No, that's
there's the
right,
dent
yeah.
in his helmet. It's from Cad Bane. They've had
Yeah.
quite a big run in
It was
before.
a cut scene from the Clone Wars, I think, from one of the cancelled episodes before the revamp. And there's a whole like previs of it. It's really cool. Like they and yeah, it's a big to do. Well worth a look. It's available somewhere, but yeah, very cool.
And Fennec Shanda and Cad Bane have an episode. They both appear in an episode of The Bad Batch, I believe.
They do.
It could be the Clone Wars. I'm not too sure, but I think it was Bad Batch, where I think it's Omega, the character that they're. And Bad Batch is a fantastic show if you haven't watched it. There's a young character in it that Fennec is trying to get. Cad Bane is also trying to get. And I think, I'm not too sure. Anyway, they outsmart the two of them. But there's that kind of run-in, which I imagine they'll lean into a little bit more in the next episode or wherever this is going. So the big villains of this piece are now the Syndicate. I don't know if they'd really mentioned the Syndicate by name in the previous episodes, have they?
I think it's come up.
Cobb says to them, he's discussing, I don't mind Syndicate business happening here, just don't do it in my town, kind of thing. So he talks to them, and he does that cool thing of kicking the Dune melange spice all over the desert, kind of thing.
Had they mentioned the Syndicate in previous like non-Mando related episodes?
They mentioned the Pikes for sure. Yeah, they've. I think Fennec Shand has mentioned the Pikes, and I think we've seen them as well. I'm sure he has. Boba Fett actually speaks to them when he's still in one of the flashback sequences with the Sand people. I think he actually goes and speaks to the Pikes and wants to pay them off.
Yeah, well, I think we had a discussion that it was weird that they revealed the big bad as being the Pike Syndicate, but you'd already met them 3 or 4 times in the flashbacks, and it's like, oh, it's the guys. Oh, it's those guys. Why didn't they hold them back and have like a really big reveal? But
I was forgetting that the Pikes are the Pike Syndicate, because I'm also constantly thinking about like the other criminal organizations that are out there. And I was like, oh, the Syndicate must be the name of their thing. And actually, as you've said, I thought we were getting new information there actually for a second. And now that you're reminding me, no, there's nothing new. Like I thought that was what Cad Bane was doing when he came in. I thought he was almost like confirming that it was like Crimson Dawn or something like that. But no, it's not. It's just,
that would have been cool.
Who would have thought?
Yeah. But he's again, what he does is the classic Western thing that he's now almost certainly emboldened the townsfolk of Freetown, which is again very Westerny, and they're going to fight. Like he did the completely opposite of what he was trying to do. The fact that it's a classic sort of like red shirt Star Trek thing that the new guy gets killed. Oh, he's new, and within a few minutes he's dead.
It also gives them an excuse for Cobb to get shot and it not be on him because he was distracted by the deputy. So he's not been undercut. It's fine. He still has.
They're going to come back to that. They're going to draw again. They'll come back to that.
100%.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is how you book wrestling. You have your superstar lose, but you do it in a way where he's still protected.
Yeah. So I think they're going for fan service, but they're also. Well, I think with Star Wars, you're damned and you do, and you're damned if you don't. So a lot of the newer films, when they haven't lent on lore and things that have happened in the past, and they haven't sort of they haven't gone off canon, but they've gone awry, and they've added in new force powers and things like that. But when obviously with these shows now, they're just literally going, no, here's the bit with Luke building the temple that's in that film, and here's Cad Bane actually turning up because he's had history with these two. They're ticking all those boxes. But even then, if it's that way around, some people are going, oh, they're just doing fan service. So I actually much prefer where they just give us everything instead of going off on a different route altogether. I mean, this is a spin-off of a spin-off. It might only last one season. Why not just give us all this cool stuff?
Sure.
And let's go, and scream at the TV. Like I'm really enjoying like all these little things. It's like even the Ashok talking to Luke, like that's never happened ever. Like she was trained by his father.
Yeah. Big moment.
So what she's probably the only person he's ever met that can talk to him without lying, like Yoda and Kenobi did, about his father, because he knows all the information now. She's the only person in the whole universe, and she's there with him. And it's like, oh right, this is a really weird dynamic. This could mean something.
Yeah. But is that not why? So, but then why are they not showing us that conversation? Why are we coming in at the end of that encounter? You know, if they bumped it until later, then, and you know, you put them in a slightly dark hut. There's a fire. You can hide some of the, you know, Mark Hamill's face, and you can have a slightly, you know, have that longer stuff with the VFX and everything, and have a conversation. Maybe Grogu's there. Maybe you get that cool flashback to Order 66. You know, and give us that conversation. And I know, I'm picking hairs. I'm nitpicking. I know I am, but I think
Marcus, I love how your whole pitch there is really just about fixing the visual effects. You know, if we could just come up with a reason to put them in a shadowy area, we can.
It was that. I know, but it was that distracting for me. It was. I'm not going to get back into that. But the point is, I think I'm all for fan service when it's done right, but here I feel like the scattergun approach to character introductions. You know, Disney also own Marvel, and Marvel have that wonderful formula of slowly introducing things over a longer period of time. Jon Favreau, for God's sake, started the whole thing. You know, it's and yet they've just gone, here's everything at once. Why? Where's Boba Fett? What's going on? You know, just take your time. I don't know.
This entire series is an exposition machine for Disney's Star Wars TV.
Have you ever?
It's just set laying the ground. They might get a second season because it's cool, but like it's just laying the ground, and they're like, here's all the cool stuff. They're like firing teddies out of a gun, you know, one of those sort of a t-shirt gun kind of. Yeah, everyone gets a t-shirt kind of thing, and it's, you know, it's
you get a helmet, you get a helmet, you get a helmet.
Exactly. Everyone gets a Razor Crest from Oprah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
You know,
it's fun.
Have you ever seen the somebody did it on TikTok and it blew my mind? It's basically all the movie titles for Star Wars are in the wrong movie. Like the Phantom Menace is like I can't remember what it is, but it's like The Empire Strikes Back is like The Force Awakens, and The Force Awakens is like A New Hope, and The Rise of Skywalker is the Rise of Skywalker is the Phantom Menace, and you know, something like that, right? And just go and check it out if you haven't. You just Google TikTok Star Wars names or some Star Wars titles or something, and you'll get it. And somebody has done they did a graph on IGN or an infographic on IGN about it, and it is hilarious. You're like, yes, all your titles are in the wrong place, right? And I think you can now extend that to the order with which they're making stuff. The Mandalorian should have come before The Force Awakens in terms of its production. Yeah. Because the one thing that just totally, I've enjoyed the sequel trilogy, right? And we can talk about them another day. But the one thing that has always thrown me when I watch them is, wow, there's just this whole new evil empire out there. You know, it's like, it just, there's just a big evil empire. We spend so much time trying to destroy them. And now, oh, there's an even bigger one out there, or they're back, or they've got like, you know, more planet destroyers and all that kind of stuff, right? And it always threw me. I thought, you've just kind of landed that on me too fast, I think. And the Mandalorian seemed to be sowing the seeds for that kind of stuff. Like there's one character that literally talks about order and how order is, you know, the solution to everything. And you're like, oh, I get it. That's where the First Order name might be coming from. And now Boba Fett as well, and Ahsoka, and Thrawn is probably going to make an appearance in that show, and you know, the Obi-Wan show, all this kind of stuff. And I thought, these are the shows that are going to ultimately legitimize the sequel trilogy years from now. Yeah, you know, Luke building his academy and all that. Like years from now, when we've forgotten about the order with which all this stuff came out, and some young audience member new to Star Wars is just watching it all in chronological order, it's going to just make total sense. It's all going to fit. It's all going to work. They're not going to be thinking politics in Star Wars. It's all just going to feel natural. The Clone Wars isn't going to feel like something that's been rushed. It's going to feel like, wow, this was a real war that lasted for years. the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan will be so much stronger when you get into Revenge of the Sith, because you'll have watched Clone Wars. And the collapse of Luke's academy will feel more tragic in The Last Jedi and Force Awakens, or whenever it's talked about, because you'll know maybe Grogu fell in that night as well, or something. But typical Star Wars, they did it all in the wrong order. They always do it in the wrong order.
Well, they're doing a lot of really Star Warsy things in these 2 episodes, though. Like the music and everything. They're talking about the Empire again. This is not discussed in a lot of the TV series because it doesn't need to be. But they were obviously doing a fanboy Star Wars, like a couple of episodes. Even the Armorer. I'd never really thought of it in my head before, but she says, for all the fuss that was made out of them, the Empire was gone in 30 years.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They barely got 3 decades out of it, and then they were gone.
I love that.
And that she goes into the destruction of Mandalore as well, the Night of 1,000 Tears, and you see the TIE bombers like taking it all out, and it's like, right,
amazing,
cool.
amazing.
We're getting some of the stuff. And one thing that I was confused about is that I didn't know if they just excommunicated him in the scene after that, because he was like, but it's all been destroyed. And she was like, this is the way. I was like, it's a catch-22. He's out. But no, he's going to go, because the planet's still there.
Yeah.
He's going to have to go back and investigate the subterranean bits. They didn't destroy the planet. In my head, it was gone. And I was like, that's a pretty shitty way of like kicking someone out of your religion. Like, we'll give you this task. You can never complete it because the planet's been destroyed. But it is there, isn't it? It is there.
Yeah,
I had that bit confused in my head.
No,
but there's all these like bits of history that we get to see now.
I do think I have loved every second of watching the Book of Boba Fett so far, and I was so giddy with the Mando stuff, right? And him building the starfighter and all that little stuff. It doesn't have to involve Luke or anything. That moment where Ahsoka's talking to Luke and she mentions his father, I just thought, oh my God, it's just the weight of those lines, if you're a Star Wars fan, is amazing. So I have loved every second of it so far. I've loved Boba Fett's journey out in the desert and everything. I just think it's all amazing. I just don't think it's a well-structured series.
Yeah.
It's just missing vision, which has always been the major criticism of Star Wars, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Literally, we're talking about this series doing very Star Warsy things. They are tripping and falling into something great, and they're creating some iconic scenes and some iconic moments and things. Maybe not by accident, but nearly by accident, which is literally how the original Star Wars was made. The kind of tripping and falling into something iconic, and I think that you summed up far more eloquently than I could exactly how I feel about that. It's exactly the same thing. It is, all the ingredients are there. It just needed to be. I think it's just a failure to plan and a failure to really to show it, and also a failure to include the main character, because that's just something I can't get past and I can't understand. Is to make this the Book of Boba Fett. Not even just the Boba Fett show, the Book of Boba Fett, implying that he is writing this book and then just not involve him, not that literally, but then just not involve him in, massive swathes of this thing. That's extraordinary.
I watched the morning show, season 1, when it came out, and you couldn't get me to shut up about it. Mm-hmm. It was one of the best seasons of television I'd seen in such a long time. Watched season 2, hated every second of it. Didn't bother watching didn't even get to the end of it, right? Same with Lost. I don't think I've ever binged through a show. I came to Lost very late, but I don't think I've ever moved through a show like that so quickly. I was hooked on it and couldn't finish the last season. I have no idea how it ends, right? I just will never go back to it. Just it burned its bridges with me. I am capable of just, even if I love something to bits, I am capable of just walking away from it and saying, nah, I'm done. Mm-hmm. And despite all my criticisms of the show, you could give me 25 more episodes of Book of Boba Fett and I would watch every one of them.
Oh, 100%.
There's just something about it. I'm just in all the way every time. But I always come back going, why did they do that? Or where are they going with it? Or what?
It's also it's the world as well that it's in. We're all in love with the universe that it exists in. So why wouldn't we give it more of a chance and
But
we
that's
might
my
do
point.
something else?
But that's why I mentioned Lost and stuff. I am capable of taking something I love and putting it away and never touching it. There are aspects of Star Wars that I'm just not interested in watching. I didn't watch every episode of Clone Wars. I started to pick and choose the episodes I wanted to watch. I started to basically I was at a point where I was like, if the plot line doesn't look good on Disney Plus, I'm not going to watch it because there's too many episodes. And I started relying on IGN and articles and stuff to recommend the best episodes to watch. So I am very capable of saying, you know what, this isn't for me, even in a Star Wars universe. There are some Star Wars video games that have been pitched. Like there's a new one that's been pitched by Quantic Dream, did Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls and stuff like that. And I don't care. I'm not excited. I'm not fussed about it. We haven't seen much of it, obviously, but I just because it's got the Star Wars logo on it doesn't mean it'll do it for me. But this show is doing something for me. I can't quite put my finger on it, but it's doing something for me. I am scratching my head though.
Yeah, I think you're right, Brad. I think it is the world. I think it's the world, and I think it's being back on Tatooine, and it's the kind of the beautiful visuals of it, and they're well written dialogue, and the characters being so great. It's all the stuff there. I just think it's just weirdly put together, and I think that if we were not screenwriters, and if we were not people that who work in this world and who understand it in the way that we do, we'd probably just be sat there going, "Oh, this is great," because that's and arguably that's all you need, and that's kind of what I said earlier about all my grumbling about visual effects and things like that. It doesn't matter because it is enjoyable, and so what more do you want? And of course the answer is, for this screenwriting podcast, well, here are all the things that we want that are more, and here are all the things that would be better. But ultimately, it does kind of come down to, is it an enjoyable show? Does it tell an interesting story? And I guess both the answers are probably yes. It's just I take issue with some of the ways in which they've told it.
It's like they're breaking the rules, but it's as a writer looking at it, it's like, you can't do that. And then when it kind of works, you're like, oh, they did that. And then I think there's probably something within us that's getting irked that it is kind of working on a certain level. But as we already mentioned, there's no other franchise really that has this weird way of redeeming former things that they've made. So like you when they finished all these TV shows, these millions of TV shows they're going to make, it might restructure how you feel about everything. I mean, The Last Jedi is a perfect example. When I came out of the cinema, I'd seen all this really cool stuff, but then I was like, well, hang on a minute, they can't make that up about the Force, and they can't do this, and what books exist now? Like, what's going on? And then when I watched Rise of Skywalker, I went back to it, I was like, oh my God, this is a brilliant film. It's a really good film. And just because I knew what they were trying to set up and where it was going, and then the things they didn't carry through from it, which I was disappointed about, it made me completely reassess The Last Jedi. And I think that, that's happened in many, many points throughout this franchise. Like, you'll watch a little bit of Clone Wars or whatever, and you'll think completely differently about the Attack of the Clones.
Mm-hmm.
And there is that redemption, the thread of redemption for shows rather than the characters in this franchise that will keep you. I think you'll just keep you watching. You're like, oh no, they're going to save this. They're going to do something really cool. They're going to do the Grogu and Luke show, or it probably won't. But it's like, there are these things that might happen.
The Grogu and Luke show, like a side show, like a circus thing.
But you see, I think they genuinely will do it, but they'll do it as an animation. I think that'll be the way. They'll understand that, okay, the visual effects, people are kind of hit and miss on the visual effects. For every John, there's a Marcus, and they'll be like, they'll just be like, let's not risk it. So,
but I mean, it's already 50% animation anyway, right? Like,
yeah, but I think they'll just be, you know what, the Clone Wars Bad Batch, people have loved Bad Batch, people have loved the final season of Clone Wars. We've got a model here that works. We've never seen Luke in that, and we've never seen Grogu in that. We can have fun with that world, and we can still get Rosario Dawson in to lend her voice. We can still get everybody. We can get Pedro Pascal in to lend his voice every now and again, and we can get Ben Solo in, and we can get Han Solo in, and we can get Leia in if we wanted, and we can, we're not going to be. It's not like we're CGIing Carrie Fisher. and being and incurring wrath from the fans who would find that disrespectful. It's not like we have to convince Harrison Ford to put on the jacket again. We're just, I think there is potential to that.
I imagine.
Yeah, but I think with the Leia, they've already deepfaked a young Leia with Carrie Fisher's daughter, whose name I forgot, Billy. I've forgotten her name. In the scene of where they're training so they've already done it. So it's not like people are going, "Oh my god, I can't believe you." They've already done it. They've already had a young Leia. They've already deepfaked it. They've already shown that she was training. And I don't think it would be too much of a step. I mean, they've already brought back young Luke Skywalker, like more than once now. People never thought that they'd never see that guy again, and like, oh no, he's back for a whole episode. Like, great. And there's no reason they can't. They're kind of trying to give everyone what they wanted. There's a huge gap between Return of the Jedi and then the franchise sort of a reawakening, and all these new films and TV shows have happened, and all that people wanted was more of the original stuff. Hence all of the books, the Star Wars Legends books and all those kind of things. They were like tales about what Luke was doing in between after Return of the Jedi, and what they were doing in between films, and there's all these stories that were written outside of Lucasfilm because people wanted it so much, and now they're at a point where they can just do it, and it's I kind of think they're going to do that.
Yeah,
they own it all. They can do what they want, they're making a lot of money.
Yeah, go do it. I'm all for it. Just tell it in a coherent way, and just plan ahead a little bit. And and if you're gonna make a show about somebody, make them the main character. It's all I ask.
It is, it's the problem that, and I love George Lucas, right, as a filmmaker. I have a letter from George Lucas and from his office, actually, from the desk of George Lucas. But the one thing that Lucas, I think, has always been guilty of is not fully thinking through why certain things might exist the way they do in his universe. Obi-Wan wore a brown cloak in A New Hope because he's hiding in the desert. It's camouflage. It's the same type of clothing that the Jawas wear. But it turns out, no, the Jedi, because he's a Jedi, everyone has to, every Jedi now has to wear a brown cloak, which, kind of makes sense when you think of it as like a holy order type thing. But
not for Obi-Wan.
It made more sense why he would do that in A New Hope. And the point I'm making is, I think the Book of Boba Fett is very guilty of that. And they haven't really, they're giving us the fan service, but I don't think they've ever extended themselves further. I thought Mandalorian did a nice job of giving you fan service while at the same time just branching out a little bit further out into the universe. Whereas I know Book of Boba Fett is set on Tatooine, but it feels like by doing so, they've forced themselves to have to adhere to that rule of the kind of George Lucas rule of, well, you have to follow the rules of previous movies now. You have to do what we've seen before. You can't possibly branch out and give us another perspective or anything like that. And that I don't know, that's a kind of a gripe I've been having with this show a little bit. Yeah. The fact that they go off world for 2 episodes and we get Luke and we get Grogu, like we don't get something new. We get the stuff from previous movies and previous shows and stuff. But we're not. It's a universe that's particularly small when it's done wrong. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think as far as like practitioners of structure and things like that are concerned, we're all a little bit befuddled by what they're doing, and we're enjoying it. And then, I mean, even like there are a few things that jarred with me because they're trying to keep in the same universe. The whole Peli Motto thing with her talking Jawanese because she dated one of them, that was funny. And they were obviously trying to explore this world of the Jawas nicking stuff. I think there was a couple of the things they carried were callbacks to stuff from the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And I think they've changed her without realizing it. because they're trying to keep in that universe of like, oh look, we're gonna get on with the Jawas and see what they do because that's part of the Star Wars universe. She was in the Mandalorian. She was like this really awkward, grifty character, and you weren't entirely sure whether she was gonna, screw him over or any of that. And now she's like his best buddy, and she's like the comic relief, and she's like very silly. And I don't know, that for me, that was one of the most jarring things about it, even more than Luke's face. Like, I was like, oh, this is what's going on with her? Why have they changed her? Like,
Yeah,
it didn't make sense to me, that bit.
I wonder.
That was my biggest gripe with the whole thing.
Yeah, I wonder if rather than you want to do like some kind of experiment with structure and whatnot. What if they'd just gone? We're taking 2 weeks off from the Book of Boba Fett, and we're giving you the first two episodes of the Mandalorian series 3. And you just pop over there and you watch those 2, and then you join back in with the Book of Boba Fett 2 weeks later, and you pick up, and then Boba Fett's got a little cameo. If you, I think, and I kind of hate myself for saying if you branded it differently, but if you branded it differently, and you called it what it was, and you said this is the Mandalorian, and we're doing this for 2 episodes, and Boba Fett, and it's okay that Boba Fett's not talking because he's a cameo in the Mandalorian. He's not the main plot driver. And then we come back to the Book of Boba Fett, for the next episode or whatever it is. I don't know. Maybe it'd be better.
You know what was needed here, just to kind of offer a solution to the point you've just made. Boba Fett should have been incapacitated, and Fennec Shan should have been like to Chrysanthemum, "We need more help. Who do we go to?"
Yeah,
we go to go to Mando, and now audiences understand why Boba Fett isn't in 2 episodes. Because he's not there, he's in a Bacta tank.
Yeah,
he can't be back in the Bacta
tank.
No,
but that's it. Like this all was rewritten. This was all written before they ever shot a thing, right? So
hang on, it's back to tank to the future. Like it's like what? They can't go back in the Bacta tank.
Remove the Bacta tank from the first one. That's the thing that's the weird thing about the Bacta tank is you don't need that to have memories. That's why I asked you in the previous discussion: is the flashbacks like part of the healing of the brain or something like that goes on in the Bacta tank? I loved
that. That was great.
But all you have to do is just have him staring longingly out into the desert. We've seen so many movies and TV shows that are structured around flashbacks, and there's no, he's not stuck in a coma or anything when they're having the dreams. It's just you having a dream. Like there was no reason why we couldn't have had a little less flashbacks in the other episodes and offset them onto the Mando episode. So while Mando is off with Luke, and while Mando is off with the armor and the Order and the Darksaber and stuff like that, we're also having flashes of the Sand People and stuff like that, and we're just spreading it out and giving it more even distribution. And at least you're acknowledging like we're lost without Boba Fett. We need more help. And you haven't written him out of the show. You've just given us a good reason why he's not the one tracking down Cobb Vann, and he's not the one.
It would make sense, wouldn't it?
Just a little thing like that. And if I'm
it was imprisoned or something.
Yeah.
He was
Pikes.
Just out of the game.
We have to go and save Boba Fett now. Pike got him. We have to go and save him and go get Mando.
I would have expected more of a mashup rather than just Mando, but they did mash up their theme music. Did you get that at the start of? I know it was at the start of Ep 5. I don't know if it's. And I loved it.
Yeah,
because I love both the tracks. I love both of them. I think they're brilliant. Like, opening themes and closing themes to the shows. And then when they put them together, I was like, yeah, that had to happen. Like they're composed by the same person and the same tone. I was like, yeah.
But there was one thing that I found very jarring, and that was you end episode 6 with Grogu having to make a decision. Do I go with the Mandalorian armor or do I go with the lightsaber? You can't have both. You can only have one. And he's about to reach, or he's thinking, or he's looking at both. And then we cut to the Book of Boba Fett on the screen.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, you might as well have just put The Last Jedi on the screen, or you might as well have just put Obi-Wan Kenobi on the screen, because this is not the Book of Boba Fett. This is now Grogu's story. Like you've literally given this character a difficult decision, one of the most difficult decisions he's ever probably had to make in his life. And you've put the Book of Boba Fett as the logo at the end. I was like, no, come on, that's not the same. It doesn't gel. It doesn't gel. And I was just like, Yeah.
What worries me is that they're building, by including Luke Skywalker and Grogu in that decision, everything like that. What worries me is that they're building to this all-out war I think next week's the finale, isn't it? I think they're building to this all-out war in the finale, and it's all going to go wrong, and they're going to be pinned down and everything, and then the X-wing's going to fly down and stuff. Because Grogu, in my opinion, Grogu's choosing Mando. Because they literally made a point of we're removing the droid thing from your starship, which is a perfect Grogu thing. I mean, he's choosing Mando. Surely that's what's happening. And then then the X-wing flies down and saves the day, and Luke jumps out and amazing flips and stuff like that. So we end up ending the Book of Boba Fett in exactly the same way that we ended Mandalorian Series 2. Obviously, I'm getting angry about something that hasn't happened yet, obviously, but that's what worries me, is that if we look at it from a structural point of view and we look at Chekhov's Wookiee, then what you might have here is Chekhov's deepfake. And you have and you suddenly, Luke Skywalker comes in, you've got Chekhov's droid compartment, all of these things, and that it all gets paid off might be overusing that. It all gets paid off in this finale, which should be great, and it should be a great idea, and it would draw those threads together. But we're just doing the same thing that we did last time.
I think they're gonna leave us. I think they're going to leave us not knowing, and that's going to either come back in The Mandalorian or that's going to come back in something else. And to go from Chekhov's Wookiee, I think we can now say that having that decision in front of us, it's going to be Schrodinger's Grogu, because we don't. It's just going to be there in the decision at one point. We're going to be left with that for the rest of for the one episode that we've got left. But it's just going to be. I think they're going to leave that hanging. I think they're gone. They're gone.
I'm going to have to put Grogu in a box now. That is so.
Isn't it weird that we're only getting? Isn't it weird that we've only got one episode left?
Yeah.
I looked at it and I thought 7. That's such an odd number.
It is weird.
That's literally an odd number. I mean, it's not. It's not like. It literally feels like they just ran out of story to tell, and we're like, it's like a feature. It's like Martin Scorsese making a 60-minute movie or something. It just feels weird. It just feels wrong. It just feels like, or a 63-minute movie or something. It just feels like such an odd time, odd running length for a season of Star Wars. And I mean, I hope we're going to get more episodes of that thing, or more episodes of Kenobi than that. I hope we're going to get more. I'm really excited to see Ahsoka and Thrawn and all that. I hope we're going to get more than 7 episodes.
I think Kenobi's a proper limited series. I've got a feeling it's only 5 episodes. I don't know that. I don't know if they're sure. Maybe they're longer, but I've just got a feeling.
We will do an analysis on Kenobi after this, because I think now it'll be I think we'll be able to have a very interesting conversation based on the evidence we've been presented in this show about Kenobi. Sorry, Brad, you were going to say.
I was agreeing that it's an unusual length to have a show. We don't know if there's going to be a second season, but they've done some really weird things to confuse us whether there will be or not, because they've taken liberties with the characters that you wouldn't do until much later on in a multi-season run of a show. So take Mad Men, that was on for 9-8 seasons or something, and all the first season or two were just about Don Draper, right? Every episode, Don's journey, it's his show. And then you get into season 3, as you do with a lot of long-running shows, and you'll have an entire episode about Betty or Elizabeth Moss's character, or Richard Sterling, or there would be, and Don wouldn't be in it. He might pop in and go, "Hi, here's the new idea for the ad campaign," or whatever they do. And they're doing that right now in the 5th episode of the first season, and it is part of a wider story, so I can see why they're trying to take that approach to it, but it's confusing to whether there's going to be more of it or not.
I don't think there will be. I'm calling it now. I don't think there's a second season. Maybe I'll be totally shut down. End of next episode, there'll be the Boba Fett will return or something. But I don't think I want a second season. I know I'm contradicting myself as saying I could watch this forever, but I can watch Boba Fett in any show. That's fine. I could watch this world, I could watch it, but this story that they really don't have much energy to tell, it seems, I don't think has life left in it. If Ryan Johnson's trilogy gets cancelled, and then the guys who did Game of Thrones, their trilogy gets cancelled, and like I think Patty Jenkins has now left her film that she was going to do. I don't know if she left, but like it's on hiatus now, I think. If they can release teaser trailers for movies and then cancel them, if they can do, if they have all of these stories of production difficulties and all that kind of stuff, when one would think it wouldn't be that hard to make a good movie out of it. I just can't imagine something that is clearly struggling to find its footing is going to be given more life, unless they have a brilliant, brilliant long-term vision for this. And they've pitched it successfully and been like, no, like, trust us on this journey. And if they said that to us, just trust us on this journey, I'd be more than happy to do that. But
and you know what,
I'm
the thing
is,
I do,
there's going to be a second season.
The way I can maybe see it going is if they fail in the war, if the Pikes take over and things like that, and then maybe what you have is Boba Fett leading a rebellion of some kind or something like that. Jabba's palace is in flames, and something like that, maybe. But I just don't. How
you give legitimacy to it? You know how you give legitimacy to this show? You have the Pikes win. You have Boba Fett you have everybody get wiped out. And it just ends in like the holy crap, what just happened? And you have Mando being the witness to all of this, failing to be able to help them and all that. And like he's going to live with that in season 3. And it's what was the Book of Boba Fett? The guy who died twice, right? And then you have at the very end some high-ranking First Order general. You get Donald Gleason, someone like that, paying off the Pike leader and saying, now Tatooine is ours. And you make Tatooine this planet that had no reference, that they never referenced in the new trilogy. You have it be this key kind of this central kind of locate, this almost like a forward operating base for the First Order as they start taking as they start getting bolder and more brazen moving forward.
That'll be interesting.
I think as long as
the idea is that you never realized Boba Fett was the key to the First Order rising up. Or something.
Interesting.
I think as long as Boba Fett's got that Rancor sitting there, he's going to ride that thing into battle and just destroy everyone. Like, that is next episode. That is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to... He might die, but he might not. But he's riding the Rancor. That's going to happen.
I don't think they kill him again. I don't think they'll do it because he's been on the verge of death. He's just climbed out of the Zarlak pit. He's done all of this stuff. I just don't think. I just don't see it. I agree with you.
Marcus,
I think it'd be cool. But
the alternative is he's going to get injured in his battle and he'll be in the Bacta tank again for another 6 months.
Just remembering stuff.
Just no more. Yeah. He either gets out without a scratch, in which case it's just boring, or he has to just kick. His helmet has to fall off. I don't know. I know they're not going to kill him, but I don't know. I feel like they need something like that to inject some sort of some sort of life into this show. Guys, we're going to have to wrap this up. Not a huge amount to discuss in terms of story, just because there isn't much story in this, is there? In terms of a show called The Book of Boba Fett.
I do
enjoy the episodes.
I got one final thing, which is annoying, has irritated me slightly, is that Mando is, he has the Darksaber and it's very heavy for him. He can't lift it. This incredible kind of Jedi weapon and everything that he doesn't understand. And then he goes to a planet where there are 2 Jedi, and he doesn't ask either one of them about the Darksaber, even though it's right there, hanging right there. I'm Northern now, right there, hanging off his belt. And no one thinks to ask him, and he doesn't ask anyone, and just gets back in his Naboo starfighter and flies away again. Why? Why would you not ask somebody about this amazing Jedi weapon?
Because you need something for season 3 of Mandalorian. Because
we've
already got Grogu and we've already got Luke and all them. Like, what would have personally been for me the season finale of season 4 of Mandalorian
But
we
isn't
just got
it
in the prologue of season 3.
Yeah.
But it's a Mandalorian weapon, though, right? It's not just
It's a Jedi and
Mandalorians made that
Mandalorian
weapon.
Yeah, but the first Mandalorian Jedi.
Sorry.
Yeah. So it's both. So you kind of surely you want the input from both of them. Also, would have given Ahsoka a real reason to be there if she could have answered the question, because she's come into contact with the Darksaber before during the Clone Wars. So that to have them actually have that conversation would have given her a real purpose to being in that scene, other than just fan service. But there we go. That's my final. Sorry.
I love how it's been over an hour of complaining, and yet they're my 2 favorite episodes of
You're amazing.
They're just brilliant. I don't know what the hell is going on, and I don't know what to expect from the final episode. If Danny Trejo doesn't pull out a machete of some sort, I'm going to be very, very
a light
downtrodden. Guys, thanks very much for that, and we'll be back again next week to discuss the season finale, and we will also start talking about our kind of wish list for the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. We'll have to do one about Ahsoka as well, because now that she's made an appearance here, I think they're really ramping up our don't forget about this character.
Yeah,
so I think we'll definitely do a talk about her as well. If you're a fan of this sort of stuff, make sure to check out our website, scriptdepartment.net. Follow us on social media. Links are in the description. And subscribe to the podcast. Just search for The Script Department. And don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel as well. Thanks very much, everyone.